All right. So in this, there was a lot of things going on this warm up. All right. The warm up started with -4 plus, you have a parentheses, -3.9, close parentheses, plus 7/8 minus open parentheses, and then you got a positive 2.81. If you want me to pause for a second, you can see if you worked it, or you can don't put the answer in the chat because people are still working right now. But if you want to work on it, anything like that, you can. You can go ahead. So, but I want to move right along. Um, for those of you who had the misconception. So not only did I say find a solution, but I said round to the what? The thousandths place. I said round your answer to the thousandths place. All right. All right. So what is the first thing that we want to do here? Anybody? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to combine, we're going to use the order of operations, right? And we have the multiplication here with the distributive property. Anytime you see a negative sign in front of a parentheses, it's like a -1, right? So you got that right there. You need to distribute that -1 to the 2.18. And that's going to give you what you already knew you had was the 7/8 minus 2.81. So right here, you can just go ahead and combine these terms. So if I have 4, which is the -4, which is the same as -4.0, and if I add that to -3.9, well, that's going to be, there's not any confusion. A positive and a negative makes a negative, right? So you distribute this positive one as well. So that makes that a -3.9. You got a -4. So that's going to go in which direction on the number line? If this is 0, we're going to go this way. Because if you're at -4 and you add a -3.0, that means your answer is going to be negative. So we have 0.9. So you basically add, and you have -7, -7.9. So we have -7.9 right here. And we're going to add 7/8. 7/8 to 7.9. So the first thing we need to do is we need to convert 7/8 into a decimal. All right, so this is step 2. We need to convert this to a decimal. So we know we got -7.9, right? And so how are we going to convert this to a decimal? Well, we need to divide 8 into 7. How many times 8 are going to 7? Well, you see that your answer is going to be less than what? Who could tell me what your answer is going to be less than when it comes to dividing how many times 8 will go into 7? It'll be less than how many? Anybody? It's going to be less than 1 because 7 is not 1. It's not 1 of 8. It's not a whole 8 yet, right? Because if this was a pie and I had 7/8 of it, it's not quite 8/8, which is 1, it's 7/8. All right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And then it's like it's almost, but not quite. Does everyone get that? So we're going to use division. We're going to divide 7, we're going to divide 8 into 7. So let's go right here and let's write our 8. So we know it won't go into 7 one time, so we need to put our decimal point and we need to add zeros. Since I said the thousandths place, you know you're going to have at least 3 zeros, right? So that's the tenths, 100,000. So it won't go into 7, but it'll go into 7 8 times. So let's bring our decimal point up, and 8 times 8 is 64. You can forget about your decimal, just pretend it's imaginary. So 8, or you can put it there, and then 0.8 times 8 is 6.4, and it'll be the same. But you could just, since you know you're bringing your decimal point up, sorry, I don't know what happened. Since you know you're bringing your decimal point up, you just 8 times 8 is 64. 64 from 70 is what? 6, right? Because that's a 10, right? And then that gives you 6, and then that makes a 6, and 6 minus 6 is 0. And then so 8 won't go into 6 anytime, so you need to bring down the 0. So 8 will go into 60 how many times? 7 is the maximum number of times. 7 times 8 is 56. And 56 from 60 is what? It's going to leave 4. Exactly. It's going to leave you 4. So 4, that's going to be a 10, right? And you're going to borrow this one. That's going to make 5. That's 0. So 4. But 8 won't go into 4 even number of times. So you got to bring down one more 0. You got to bring down one more 0. 8 will go into 40 an even number of times. So 8 will go into 40 how many times?
5.
5. So 7/8 converts perfectly into 0.875. Is 0.875, is it going to be positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, right. So now we need to add 7.9 to 0.875. And how are we going to do that? We need to set it up right here. Negative 7.9. Now be careful, because you have to keep the decimal in the right place. You put the decimal there, and then you just write 875. Now, negative 7.9 is the same as negative 7.900. You just add the zeros on top and just subtract. And people looking at this, you don't even need to do the math. You can just tell what it is, right? Well, let's just do the math for the sake of clarity. 10 from that is going to give you 5, but since you borrowed one here, that's going to make that a 9, and that's going to leave you 2, right? And then since you borrowed one from there and there, you have to borrow one from here as well, right? So that's going to make it 8. 8 minus 8 is 0, and then you got your decimal point. And all you have to do at this time is just bring down your negative 7, because you didn't have to do to the 8 what you had to do to the 9, because it was a 0. All right, so negative 7.025. Now this is combined with the 7.9. Are we done yet? No, we're not done yet, because we got to bring down the negative 2.81. So we have negative 7.025. And then we're basically going to add that to a negative 2.81. And then we could just add the 0 just to make them even. Since I said thousandths place, this is the tenths place, this is the hundredths place, this is the thousandths place. We can make it make sense now. All right, so 5. So we're just combining these. We're not subtracting, we're adding. So I wouldn't need to regroup or do anything with this because both of the signs are negative. So that's going to give me a 5. That's going to give me a 3. That's going to give me an 8. That's going to give me a decimal point, and that's going to give me a -9. So the correct answer is -9.835. How many people got that right? Was that helpful for y'all? Did y'all enjoy that?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Was that good? Are there any questions about how I got to my answer? All right.